At the borders of three states uniting different people and different cultures, the witness of the past and the guardian of the present. For hundreds of years, there were no state borders from Lake Inari up to the Barents Sea. Treasurers, both from the Russian Tsar and from the Danish Norwegian king, came to the high north to collect taxes. Pasvik-Inari area has always been Sami land. Years went by and Norwegian, Finnish, Russian settlers were becoming Sami people's neighbors. The living conditions were harsh. People strived to subsist. New forms of household forced out the traditional Sami livelihood. But it was grand politics that influenced people's lives the most. In 1826, a border treaty between Norway and Russia was signed. Political interests were marked at high north, and the waterway of River Pasvik divided the states. But the squalled Sami suffered the most because the border divided their land in two. In early 20th century, rich deposits were discovered in the north. And very soon, the mines of Kirkenes and Kolosieki provided the essential parts of the European production of iron and nickel. The war metals made tank and airplane armor invincible. Everyone needed them. They crossed the interests of superpowers and brought wealth and destruction to the north. In the late autumn of 1944, when the war ended in the north, the land was torn apart by severe fights and bomb attacks. Three countries, Soviet Union, Norway and Finland, started building a new life in the old valley, using natural resources to the uttermost. Old pine trees were cut in the virgin forests. Northern timber was eagerly bought in the world. And hundreds of thousands of trees were floated down the rivers and lakes. 7 hydropower plants were built in the common river, which caused big changes in the water levels. And the era of regulating the waters of Lake Inari and River Pasvik began. Melting furnaces and plants were working with full power nearby. The high north was rapidly turning into industrial area, but local farmers and fishermen only suffered from it. And in the late 20th century, the Norwegian environmental protection experts suggested an incredible project to create a joint natural park, including protected areas from different sides of the borders.
Så det de gangene jeg
Even when it was possible to go to the other side of the border, you still had this feeling of improbability, because I grew up here knowing that you are not allowed to do it.
Good morning, everybody. And the first speaker will be Anders Hamnes from the Norwegian Army operation.
Thank you.
2008, 3 states, different legislation, different nature protection status, different cultures and languages. Even the time and currencies are different in each country. No such previous experience to learn from. There is no park like this in Europe. The idea is really good, because the river is not only dividing us, but it is also uniting us. You can see it this way, can't you? The idea was fantastic. Maybe that was the reason why it succeeded.
At one border pole on the Norwegian side and opposite on the Russian side, there one Norwegian officer and one Russian officer, and sharp at 8 o'clock, like this, and then the border was open. And then I mean really open, because look what they bring with them. They had the fishing boats.
The common tasks of the park are simple: protection of nature, research and sustainable development of nature-based tourism. But each country has brought its own speciality. Pasvik-Inari Trilateral Park unites 5 nature protection areas. Pasvik-Zapovednik in Russia, Vatsari Wilderness Area in Finland, and 3 territories in Norway: Pasvik National Park, Pasvik Landscape Protection Area, and Pasvik Nature Reserve. Pasvik Valley in Norway became a center of brown bear research in Northern Europe. Nature and animals do not acknowledge man-made borders. Bears are known trespassers over the state borders. They have not been granted tourist visas so far, and making their way through barbed wire and security systems, they leave lots of traces and hair.
I think I just take this barbs and then just go through it.
DNA laboratory in Svanvik is accredited and internationally known. It started the brown bear research in Pasvik-Inari Pachenga area and later broadened the study territory. Nowadays it analyzes trace samples of bears, such as cat's hair, blood, tissue found all over Northern Europe. With the DNA, the scientists can define the identity of the bear, kinship and migration route.
Hello. Hopefully I have collected bear DNA here.
And here we have 4 markers. And we have the genotype for each marker. Under here is another sample from a bear in Sweden. As you can see from only 4 markers, we can see that these are samples from two different bears.
About 2,000 bears from Northern Europe are already identified in the DNA lab. Each of them gets its individual number. At Pasvik National Park Center, you can interactively learn and experience the life circles of the brown bear. In the Botanical Garden, there are over 300 plant species from polar regions of Europe. Here they grow berries, herbs and vegetables. Edible and ecological products go directly from the plant bed to the restaurant. And the beautiful flowers adapted to the severe climate will decorate gardens of the Norwegians. The Piilola Wilderness Hiking Trail connects Över Pasvik National Park in Norway and Vetsaari Wilderness Area in Finland. Hikers will experience the natural cycle of this ancient pine forest and signs of wilderness species such as wild animals. Vetsaari is one of the 12 wilderness areas in Finland established to preserve the landscape, traditional livelihoods, Sami culture, and to promote multiple use of nature. Lake Inari gets its waters from hundreds of small brooks and gives birth to the joint river.
Tällä puolen on Inarijärvi ja tuolta alkaa Paatsjoki.
Lake Inari is the second largest lake in Finland. There are 3,318 islands, and one of them has ancient tales about it. The Ukko Island, the sacred island of the Sami people, the Sacrifice Island. In 1873, author John Evans from England found a piece of a silver necklace in a small cave. It was 150 years ago, but the island keeps on surprising the archaeologists. During recent archaeological excavations, jewelry, animal bones, coins of Russian Tsar Vasily Shuisky were found here.
Of course, I'm a researcher and I'm very serious and so on, but but of course people usually don't talk about these things, what happens in sacred sites, because you are considered crazy or something like that. But actually I have examined two Äji places, other one situates between Inari and Ivalo. I found something, and I thought first that it was something like lingonberry leaf, and it was small. But I just started to say it's something. No, it's not leaf. It's not natural. Oh, it's metal. And then it was 1 or 2 seconds from that thought, I heard the thunder, and the thunderstorm came just right away, and we had to escape from the island. It was something that when it started, or the first thunder, I heard the thunder, then 2 or 3 people from our village, they called me, what have you done? What have you found? Because now Äji is angry. You can hear it, because Äji means old man or grandfather, but it also means god of thunder.
In 1944, Petsamo's called Sami habitat went over to the Soviet Union. The villagers had to move to the shores of Lake Inari. Nowadays, in Pine Forest, near Nellem village, there is a wooden church built to Saint Tryphon of Petchenga.
Ja tämän on rakentaneet kuopiolaiset hirsimiehet on tehnyt. Ja tässä on
The people of the village helped to build the church. The contribution of the people to the building is approximately 5,000 working hours. Now both Lutheran and Orthodox church services are held here. After the war, in the fire of which many traditional Sami houses were burned down, the association called Sami Liitto suggested to establish an open-air museum.
These two houses are really quite valuable because they are built in 1850s, and it shows the time when before that Samis used to travel with reindeers to the Arctic Sea, and wintertime they came to this area. But when the borders of Sweden and Norway were closed, they couldn't move with the reindeers anymore. So they started to build houses, and we are really happy to have these two old houses here.
Here are different types of Sami houses. For many years, household utensils were placed inside. Nearby we can witness traditional farmstead, sod huts, shelters for sheep and reindeers, barns to store food. Even animal traps, reconstructed according to the description of the ancient chronicles and stories of old Sami.
Bear trap. And you put here, there is kind of a stick, you put a piece of meat there, and when a bear comes and takes the meat, these logs goes down. Of course you have to have more stones here, and this is just for safety, so that no tourist won't go to the trap.
And today, Open Air Museum became living scenery for a film festival. Every year in January, filmmakers from all over the world bring their films to Inari. Sami Museum and Nature Center Cedar displays the Sami culture and northern nature. There are some unique exhibits here, for example, shaman's drum, the main attribute of ritual ceremonies, and some exhibits from the modern life of Sami. For half a century ago, it would only take you 2 hours to get from Nelim to Petsamo, modern Pechenga, by the Arctic Road. Now this route is only open for birds and other animals. The Russian part of Pasvik-Inari Trilateral Park still remains the most hardly accessible part of the park. The native service is located in the restricted border zone. State Nature Reserve Pasvik specializes in ecological education and enlightenment of the local people and visitors. They plant trees, observe the revival of nature around the metallurgic plant, watch the life of birds. The strict nature protection status allows the scientists to study the nature in the areas free from human interference today. And these observations are unique. In the beginning of 20th century, Norwegian ornithologist Hans Skåning began observing birds in River Pasvik Valley. He describes over 100 types of birds and called this place a bird's paradise. The river is actually a natural rendezvous where northern, eastern and western species meet, where migratory birds rest and breed. Having Skåning's observations, modern scientists can assess the trends in natural conditions and various types of birds for more than a century period.
Вот совместная работа заповедника, Pasvik, экологического центра, пограничников двух структур, полиции Норвегии. Поэтому нам приятно, что вы можете нам оказать содействие в этом вопросе. Тогда я предлагаю заповедник, экологический центр начнут свою работу, потому что уже пора, а мы будем со стороны наблюдать.
Few times a year in the Pasvik River Valley you can witness a future world model, a world of trust and open space. In the summer and autumn, Russian and Norwegian ornithologists are counting waterfowl moving freely between the states, and border guards from two countries help them to do it. This is the Pasvik-Inari Trilateral Park in the high north. The territory of three countries sharing the same time, the time of nature, science and cooperation.